everyone, Kate here for what I hope is the first in a series of different reviews that are for my participation in Natalie from Curious Reader, her Curious Adventure reading challenge she is doing for the year of 2020. And this reading challenge is really delightful in that it's a nonfiction challenge and there are 12 of them, so you can kind of take it one per month. And it just has a really fun, playful feel about it. And the first one that I participated in was the graphic nonfiction challenge. So read graphic nonfiction. And I was really pleased because now I had seen Natalie talk about this on her channel and the library had it. And it is Around the World in 80 Trees by Jonathan Drury and illustrations by Lucille Clerc. This is a stunning, stunning book. I will try to give you some nice up-close looks at the illustrations because they were just lovely. And the title is very self-explanatory. This is a book where you get to learn about 80 trees from around the world. It starts out in Europe and then works its way west and ends in the US and Canada. And there were so many kinds of trees I had not heard about, just so many interesting facts and so much more impact societally and almost psychologically than I had realized about trees. And Judi Dench, she says, she is talking in the blurb on the back, it says, "I have loved trees all my life. It's fascinating to understand the key role they play, not just in our lives, but life as a whole." So obviously I was really appreciative and I did really have this understanding of the impact that trees have on the environment and what a beneficial thing they are for us to have in the earth and just helping with the entire system of how we get air. And so that didn't really come as a surprise to me. It was still cool to read all about all of that, but just to see kind of how in different folklore and legends and also a lot of nostalgia for people, how different trees come to mean so much to them. So there are several trees that I tabbed because it was just so fascinating to learn these about them. But there was one tree that he didn't talk about that I think deserved a place in this. And I think it should have then been Around the World in 81 Trees, but it doesn't have quite the same ring to it. And I will talk about that tree at the end. So I'm just going to go through the ones that to me were especially interesting. First is the white willow tree, which can be found in Belgium. And these illustrations were absolutely stunning. But what I found interesting about the white willow tree is that it was known in the Middle Ages that you could take a little sliver of the bark if you had a toothache and push it between your teeth where the toothache is, and the pain would go away. And then the legend was once the pain went away, you should take the sliver out and then put it back in the tree to give the tree the pain, like this kind of mystical thing that the tree does. But then he was talking about, then later on, they looked at, components that were in the willow bark. And now we take this in pill form regularly and it is aspirin. So aspirin can be found in the bark of the willow tree. And I thought that was so cool that sometimes I think about people from the past and how pain, like I feel like now with ibuprofen and Tylenol, we have these ways that we can take care of pain. And I feel so lucky that if I have a headache, I can take something for it and it goes away. So for these everyday pains, chronic pain, I know that's a totally different thing, but for everyday aches and pains, I'm so thankful to live in this day and age. But I thought that was really special to learn that there were some things that people could do to help take care of pain years and years and years ago. The next is a tree, another European tree, and he labels it in Ukraine, but it's found in multiple countries. And this is the horse chestnut, which I think is so beautiful. So the horse chestnut, what really spoke to me about this, like I said before, the trees having so much more of an impact on society than I realized, just being powerful symbols. It says, while the conker tree, which is what they're called in the UK in particular, horse chestnuts, calls to mind playful childhood days, the horse chestnut is also an upsetting reminder of Europe's darkest hour. During World War II, Anne Frank could see a horse chestnut from a window in that Amsterdam attic where she lived in hiding. She wrote in her diary that winter's bare branches, which would surely flourish in spring, inspired her with hope. Sadly, she was betrayed and did not survive. But when the tree itself died in 2010, saplings grown from its seeds were distributed as beacons of optimism and living symbols of the desire for a society of mutual understanding and respect for diversity. So I was really surprised also to hear that the tree lived until 2010. It is interesting in this book, you hear about the whole range of how long different trees live. The next tree that has a really interesting aspect to it, but I did already know this, but I had not thought about it in a while because it really creeps me out. This is the fig tree. So figs are pollinated. I found this out after eating a fig. But basically, wasps love figs. And a female wasp will lay her eggs in a fig and then slowly get digested by the fig, and that's what pollinates the fig. I just something about it just really creeps me out, thinking about this fig that slowly eats a wasp, and that's all part of the pollination process. And I know it is just part of life, and I should get over it. And it's probably just very Western of me to be appalled by eating bugs, because I know bugs can be very nutritious, but it just kind of horrifies me. But I remembered somebody told me that actually right after I ate a fig, which was not appreciated, but I remembered that, and just the horror was all brought back to me. Then we have the Kola Nut tree, and this one that he's drawn is the one that's in Ghana, and this has some really sad associations. So kola nuts can be chewed on, and they, what does it say? It says that they can give a rosy glow to the world. But another thing that they do is they suppress hunger and fatigue. And so the really disturbing thing is that on slave ships, it says in the 17th century, they were eaten. They served them to the slaves that were being shipped to suppress their hunger and the fatigue. So that was really sobering to know, oh, that's another impact that trees can have, having to do with the slave trade. We have the banyan tree, and the one that he has drawn is in India. What's fascinating about this tree is it will find another tree when it is very new, when it's just a little shoot, and it will plant itself, it will attach itself to that tree and use the tree as a host, and then as it grows and gets stronger, it kills the host and it becomes its own strong tree. But it's just the typical thing that it will kill another tree for itself to grow. And I found that so fascinating. I had no idea of a concept like that. It was so interesting to me. And then one illustration that just blew me away was the blue Jacaranda. I don't know if I'm saying that right. This the one that he has drawn is in Argentina, but I know there are many of them in Australia, and it just looks so beautiful, so lovely. And although when I looked it up online, it definitely looked more blue. This makes it look more purple, but I just thought these illustrations were so beautiful. So I really enjoyed this. It is a really nice read to dip in and out of. I started at the beginning of January, and now here we are. It's the 28th, and so just really slowly dipping in and out of it. And really, yeah, just it was a joy to read, and I'm sad to return it because it's just such a beautiful book. So the one tree that he did not talk about that I am very nostalgic about and have so many associations from my childhood and all of the fun and adventures that I had was the southern magnolia tree. So southern magnolias have white blooms in their white flowers that bloom. And there was a huge, huge southern magnolia in my backyard in Mississippi. And I climbed that tree so much. It was just such a fun place to go hang out. And I just adored it. And the flowers, the blooms have this really just lovely kind of citrusy scent to them. They're very fragrant. And I've heard that the white blooms are the most fragrant. And I just adored this tree. And I did actually one time, I lost my balance and I fell out of the tree. This is when I was 6 or 7, and I landed face down. So like landed flat on my face on the ground. And when I landed, the ground like caught my fall in my mouth. And so my 2 front teeth got shoved up in my gums. And this was my baby teeth though. So then thankfully it was just baby teeth. So I was able to go to the dentist and he just pulled them out prematurely. And then my regular adult front teeth grew in fine. And I just have so many, that was obviously not a more pleasant thing to happen, but I just have such fun memories of climbing in this tree and spending so much time in it. And then after the flowers go, then there's this really cool cone that has berries, these bright red berries, and birds love to eat the berries. And I did find a few interesting facts about the magnolia tree to share with you. And the first is that there are over 210 species of magnolia trees. That is so many. Also, they can be evergreen or deciduous, I think depending on the specific species that they are. They have a smooth bark when they are young, and then as they grow older, the bark gets really wrinkly and scaly. There can be pink, white, red, purple, and even yellow magnolia flowers. So I did notice when I moved to Pennsylvania, the East Coast, that there were pink magnolias. I had never seen those before, but I think just because I just love the simplicity and the elegance of the white magnolia, I still prefer that. And actually a few years ago, my parents planted a white magnolia next to their house. So it's really neat that I can still see a white magnolia from time to time. And then also their flowers are typically pollinated by beetles, because it was very interesting to learn the magnolia tree is a very old tree, and they were around before bees were even a thing. So I found that so fascinating. Most flowers are pollinated by bees, but also, beetles have wings too. And so this is something that happened, and I think it's really neat to hear. And then the flower buds and bark have been used in traditional Chinese medicine. And also it is the state flower of Mississippi and Louisiana. So I hope you enjoyed hearing about Around the World in 80 Trees. Comment down below if you have a favorite tree. Let's talk about trees in the comments. And yes, I'm really excited to have completed the first challenge in the Curious Adventure, and I will continue to work my way through it through the course of the year. I will be back for another video soon, and have a lovely day.